support rhinos, as well as the consistent endorsements of Betsy Lake's United Republicans and Rhino Ed Emmett. This just shows how bad it is in certain spots, right?
I have not seen that post, but I have to tell you, it's happening all over the country. They're running everybody off. They're keeping people from supporting the Republican Party. They don't want anybody but them in the Republican Party. And pretty soon, it's only going to be them left. And that is the reason I gave up. Because no matter how many more conservatives come to, my work has always been on gay stuff. So I've always been encouraged by how many more conservatives have come to be inclusive of gay people and supportive of gay people and understand, who live in reality in 2014 and understand that gay people are a part of our country. But as that has happened, more and more people get pushed out of the party. More and more people get told they're not welcome. More and more people get drummed out. And that Gallup poll that I referenced in my blog post and that I mentioned again today, 42% of Americans identify as independents. It's also a 20-year low of 27% who identify as Republicans. And guess what? You don't win elections with 27% of America.
Yeah.
You don't. And so if you just want to talk to yourselves, let me tell you one of the things I noticed in the 2012 election. And because they only want to talk to themselves. I travel around a lot, and I spoke to lots of groups, met with lots of Go Proud members in a lot of cities around the country. And most of the time when I would land in a city, I would stay at a downtown hotel and have a mixer or speak at a luncheon or something downtown in whatever city it happened to be. One place I remember distinctly was Milwaukee. And I was in this downtown hotel, and like I did in most cities, I would try to do something to volunteer at the Republican office or participate in something. And so as it happened, the day I got to Milwaukee, Mitt Romney was having a rally. And I go to my downtown hotel, and I find out that the rally and all of the election offices aren't even in the suburbs. They're in the exurbs. They were so far away, I couldn't make it out there. And I thought, well, there they go again, talking to themselves again. And so I did my event in Milwaukee that evening. And the next morning I woke up in my hotel, and the Romney people were leaving the hotel. They had stayed there too. And guess who was coming in? The president and Katy Perry. And their event was downtown at the convention center, right next to my hotel. And I got to thinking, I thought, well, no wonder the Romney people think they're going to win. They're only talking to people like them. And of course, as we came to find out, they were writing off 47% who live in the suburbs,
right.
in red counties. But, that to me, just like those emails among Harris County Republican officials, that to me said, we only want people like us. We only want people like us, and you have to be with us 100% of the time. And, that's not how you win elections. You win elections by people saying, I agree with you on most things, and I trust that you will consider the impact on all Americans when you're making decisions. That is what Republicans can't seem to do, is to be able to demonstrate that they think about how issues affect everyone, and they think about it from their perspective. And if you're not willing to talk to everyone, or if you're not even willing to tolerate everyone, if you can't be able to think, how is this policy going to affect that gay couple down the street? Or how is this policy going to affect the Muslim family down the street and their religious liberty? Then you're not going to be a very good leader, because public policy affects the public, and that means everybody. And you have to be able to convince people that you think about issues from their perspective, or they'll never vote for you.
You've actually given me a hell of a segue. Looking at actually not at something that was said by a Republican, but something that was said by a Democrat. Actually was said by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who said, I believe, he said yesterday, he said, the gridlock in Washington is less about Democrats and Republicans. It's more about extreme Republicans versus moderate Republicans. You're seeing that play out in New York. The Republican Party candidates are running against the SAFE Act. That would be the gun legislation that was passed last year. He said it was voted for by moderate Republicans who run the Senate. Their problem is not me and the Democrats. Their problem is themselves. Who are they? Are they these extreme conservatives who are right to life, pro-assault weapon, anti-gay? Is that who they are? And here's the key quote. Because if that's who they are, and they're the extreme conservatives, they have no place in the state of New York, because that's not who New Yorkers are. I guess in that situation, I'm not going to New York ever again, and my sister lives there, unfortunately.
Well, I have to tell you that first of all, that he stepped over the line in that statement for sure, but what he's talking about is, certainly he's wrong on guns. He's wrong on a number of issues, but he's characterizing a Republican Party that's out of touch. And in that point, I agree with him. I certainly think that he's outrageous in his statement that they don't belong in New York. But if what he's saying is that there are people in the Republican Party who are out of touch with New York, then he's probably right. But the governor should not say you're not welcome in New York ever, and that's not a smart political move. And I'm sure that will hurt him. That only fans the flames. And that shows me that he's not capable of national office. So that relieves me. I mean, yeah. Honestly, when I hear something like that, I judge the politician as a politician, and that doesn't score high marks in my regard. If he was trying to say that they're out of touch with New York, he's he's probably right. But using those issues and using that language is not smart, because he demonstrates that he doesn't have a future with that.
From a kind of getting back to the Republican Party and discussing issues and issues that involve gays, that involve lesbians, and that kind of everybody likes to talk about. Does the government need to be involved in marriage?
Well, I think that is a philosophical, theoretical argument that we could have. I think while I share a limited view of government with many libertarians, this to me strikes me as an issue that a lot of libertarians like to talk about, that while it sounds good in theory, isn't realistic. We have government involved in marriage. That's the reality, and it is in over 1,000 places in our laws. And the reality is that that's not going to change. Mm-hmm. And so what I think is, if we have a law, then it should apply to everybody. And if straight people can marry somebody, then gay people should be able to marry somebody, because that's America. That is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. That is how we do things here. If you wanted to have a conversation about whether the government should be involved in marriage, that should have happened a long, long time ago. And now, after generations of civil marriage in this country, then it's time to make sure that it includes everybody, and that includes gay people.
What about those who say that they're worried about a couple coming into a church that doesn't agree with gay marriage?
Well, guess what? No church has ever had to marry anybody they don't want to marry. And I'll tell you, they currently don't have to. They never have. They never will, because they just don't. Like, for instance, I was at a cocktail party once, mm-hmm. and my friend Marcia came up to me, and she said, Jimmy, I need to tell you that my synagogue just voted, and we're going to start doing gay marriages. Isn't that great? And I said, yes, that's really great, Marcia. I'm glad that your synagogue decided to take that step. And she said, so now you can get married at my synagogue. And I said, but Marcia, I'm not Jewish. And that's the point. If you get married in a Catholic church, you have to be Catholic. And they can turn you away. And the government can't stop them from turning you away. And that, to me, is one of the biggest lies that the anti-gay marriage people are spreading. Because churches and religious institutions have never had to marry anybody that they don't want to marry. They just haven't. Now, I will tell you, though, that we are living in a country today where some churches do marry gay couples, and in not every state are those relationships recognized by the state. In those states, those churches' religious freedom is not recognized and given to those couples. And so that's just one more reason why we should treat everybody the same under the law, gay people and straight people.
A question was raised in the chat room, which was actually something that I was going to ask as well, because I think it's a question that's worth asking, which is, what about the lawsuits that are going on with gay couples suing businesses and churches, whether it's in New Mexico?
No, I don't know of a single gay couple who sued a church. I just don't. And but I do know that the issues having to do with public accommodation, like whether it's a wedding cake or whatever, have frankly nothing to do with the marriage law. It has to do with anti-discrimination laws that were passed a long, long time ago. I mean, there are laws in many jurisdictions, state, local, and in most states, that prohibit discrimination if you're going to do business in that state or location. And, so that's what that has to do with. And those laws were passed a long, long time ago, and has nothing to do with the marriage law. And there have not been any churches sued, just so you know.
The only one that was sued was actually in England, and I looked, and that's England. That's not the U.S.
And that's a different thing because they have a state religion, remember?